You're a pharma leader preparing to launch your next breakthrough therapy. Except now, you're told that by 2030, you'll be launching twice as many products with the same resources. No extra headcount, no extra time, just more pressure. Now ask yourself, is your commercial model built for that reality?
One would look at the life science, the pharmaceutical industry and say, this is an industry that is lagging innovation. It make it more difficult to adapt innovation. But COVID-19 really was a wake-up call, I think, for the entire industry. It's that need for agility, for a radical customer focus, not just in the science, but also in the go-to-market, in the commercial sphere. And I think ever since COVID, we see expectations rising and remaining at a very high level.
We are standing at a crossroad in life sciences, a place where commercial strategy, medical science, and AI-powered customer engagement are all colliding.
And Viva AI is a major initiative for Viva. And what the intent of Viva AI is to bring AI applications into our Vault platform. And I had mentioned before that I think the Vault platform is powering all of our software. 50 plus applications on the Vault platform, and Viva AI intends to bring AI capabilities at the platform level.
And at the center of it, CRM. Yes, the system that was once just a digital Rolodex is now the backbone of competitive advantage. Today, I'm joined by Florian Schnappauf, Vice President, Enterprise Commercial Strategy Europe at Viva. By 2030, pharma companies will be launching more therapies than ever, but without a proportional increase in resources. What does that mean for how companies must now think about launch planning?
Some of our customers are talking about grow without growing, or even doing more with less resources. Depending on the company, they describe this circumstance in many different ways, but the bottom line is always the same.
This is a conversation about the future of pharma through the lens of one of its most powerful enablers. Florian, welcome to Drug Diaries. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to say something from the heart. Over 93% of the people who watch this podcast regularly haven't subscribed. And listen, I get it. Life is busy. You click, you watch, you move on. But if you've ever felt like this show brings you value, if it has made you think, sparked a new idea, introduced you to something inspiring, then I have a small favor to ask. Please hit that subscribe button. It might not seem like much, but to me, it means everything. This podcast has always been a labor of love. No sponsors, no script, just honest conversations with people trying to make a difference in the world of healthcare. And your support, your one click, helps me keep doing that. It helps more people discover these voices. It helps this community grow. So if you're here, if you believe in this, please consider subscribing. Thank you for being here. Now let's get into the episode. Imagine this. You're a pharma leader preparing to launch your next breakthrough therapy. Except now, you're told that by 2030, you'll be launching twice as many products with the same resources. No extra headcount, no extra time, just more pressure. Now ask yourself, is your commercial model built for that reality? We are standing at a crossroad in life sciences, a place where commercial strategy, medical science, and AI-powered customer engagement are all colliding. And at the center of it, CRM. Yes, the system that was once just a digital Rolodex is now the backbone of competitive advantage. And right now, there's a big debate going on. Salesforce versus Viva. Two giants. One is a tech giant with roots in every industry. The other is a purpose-built life sciences platform, now rewriting the rules with Vault CRM. Today, I'm joined by Florian Schnappauf, Vice President, Enterprise Commercial Strategy Europe at Viva. We're going to talk about the 2030 launch challenge, Viva's growing CRM ecosystem, how AI can reduce admin burden and bring back human connection, and why seamless orchestration across sales, marketing, and medical isn't a luxury anymore. It's a necessity. This is a conversation about the future of pharma through the lens of one of its most powerful enablers. Florian, welcome to Drug Diaries.
Thank you for having me, Kaushik.
So Florian, before we talk about technology, AI, or launch models, I want to take a step back because transformation isn't just about a tool or a platform. It starts with a mindset shift, a realization that the way we engage, sell, and serve in life sciences no longer fits the world we are operating in. So before we dive into Viva's innovations, I would love to know, when did you first realize that pharma was undergoing a fundamental transformation, not just in science, but in how it connects with people?
It's a really good question, Kaushik. So traditionally, one would look at the life science, the pharmaceutical industry and say, this is an industry that is lagging innovation somewhat for good reasons, right? There's a lot of compliance, a lot of regulations that are in place and that make a lot of sense, but that make it more difficult to adapt innovation. But COVID-19 really was a wake-up call, I think, for the entire industry, where engagement had to move very fast from almost one day to the other, from personal face-to-face interactions into the digital world. And that highlighted something much deeper, more profound for the industry, I think. It's that need for agility, for radical customer focus, not just in the science, but also in the go-to-market, in the commercial sphere. And I think ever since COVID, we see expectations rising and remaining at a very high level in terms of digital interactions, in terms of how you're interacting with your customers across the industry. And one of my customers actually put it very nicely. He said, COVID did for the industry in 1 year what the industry wasn't able to do by itself in 10 years. And I think that grasps the essence of it actually quite nicely. And I think the industry is starting to retain some of that agility and innovation focus in its commercialization efforts now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that was an inflection point or a turning point for the industry to relook at the traditional ways of working and do some introspection. Florian, you lead commercial strategy across Europe. What's one thing you believe the industry still needs to unlearn or radically rethink when it comes to launching products today?
Traditionally, companies were very much focused on getting that one launch across the line, right? I think with COVID in our backs and the huge avalanche of innovations that's coming to the industry, that's coming to market in the next 5 to 10 years, one big shift that I think will be required is to move away from focusing on a single launch, focusing on a single effort, but starting to look at what can I do repeatedly well? How can I become excellent, for example, in launching products? How can I exercise my launch muscle to bring products to market repeatedly in a repeatable, scalable, excellent way? And I think that's kind of a mindset shift that you're alluding to, Kaushik, where companies need to move away from this is my task right now, and I need to launch this drug so I will get the benefits of my research in the marketplace, and nesting that into a broader effort of launch excellence, of thinking, how can I put the right enablers in place to make all of my launches more successful now and in the future? And I think it's a mindset shift, as you say, that is needed to take that famous step back and think about the broader enabling picture rather than only the launching.
I totally agree. And as I mentioned in my earlier introduction, in 2030, pharma companies will be launching more therapies than ever, but without a proportional increase in resources. What does that mean for how companies must now think about launch planning?
And that's actually very interesting. I mean, there is many different phrases to describe what you're now asking. Some of our customers are talking about grow without growing, doing more with the same, right? Or even doing more with less resources. So there's, depending on the company, they describe this circumstance in many different ways, but the bottom line is always the same, right? There is more investment into R&D and into assets in the pharmaceutical industry than ever before. We see now an significantly increasing pipeline that's coming to market in the next 5 to 10 years, but the resources within companies will not be able to increase in a linear fashion with these drugs that are coming to market. So we collectively, the industry, needs to find ways in which to efficiently and effectively bring these drugs to market. Because one thing, Kaushik, we must not forget, these assets are not just any products that are coming to market, right? These are medicines, in many cases, life-saving medicines, or significantly improving the quality of life of patients. So they're an additional option for patients that are suffering from a certain disease. So these drugs should come to market, and they should be an option for patients, and they should also come to market in the timely manner, right? They should not have to wait in a pipeline ready to being launched. And so that all means that companies need to become more effective, more efficient in launching them, because as we said before, the people that work on this will not increase in a linear fashion, and the funds that are available to launch and support product launches from a sales and marketing perspective, they will not grow in the same fashion, right? So it's all about efficiency. It's about productivity gains that we need to find and leverage to make that actually a possibility. And there is the good thing is there is many angles on how to approach this. We at Viva, we approach this obviously from a technology perspective, technology being one of the key enablers to leverage these productivity gains, these efficiencies. Another big one is data, connecting to the technology that can help you do more of the right things and less of those things that are not impactful. Right. So there is, luckily, and we haven't touched upon AI yet. So AI kind of integrating those two, technology and data. So there's a lot of good approaches from a technology side, how we can hopefully make that happen for the pharmaceutical industry as a collective effort.
Right. And Florian, how's the rise of specialty medicine changing the rules of engagement? Is this primarily a marketing challenge or a medical challenge or both?
It is a challenge for both, actually. It cannot be a challenge only for one, right? And maybe just recapping what we do actually mean with the rise of specialty medicines. In the past, there was a strong focus of the industry on primary care. So simpler molecules, simpler medicines from a scientific perspective that were addressing a large amount of patients worldwide, right? Now, because we are progressing as mankind in our research into the different diseases and the medicines that help treat or cure them, we also become more specialized in those treatment research. And that's what we call specialty medicines, right? And there is a very, very strong focus nowadays on these specialty medicines, on more complex treatments, also leveraging new technologies, right? Cell and gene technology and other modalities. So that will keep going. The treatment side is becoming more complex. That also means that on the receiving side, so that means the patient side, and there is a higher need for understanding and explaining the complexities of these specialty medicines. Who sits between the pharmaceutical industry and the patient? It's the doctor, it's the healthcare professional, right? And there is a very strong need on the part of the healthcare professional to understand that complexity and to keep pace with it, because we're launching many more medicines every year, and a doctor in any single disease area treatment area needs to understand what options does he have to treat the patients. That means now, to your original question, right? Is this a marketing challenge or is it more of a medical medicine challenge? It's actually both. We need to educate doctors on these great innovations that are coming to patients from the pharmaceutical industry. If that's a medical challenge, right? So how can we scientifically explain well to the doctor so they know what the best option for any given patient is? And on the other hand, it's also a marketing challenge because we need to reach a broad set of stakeholders out there. And that set of stakeholders is also not static. It's very dynamic, right? Depending on which area we're talking about. And the treatment and decision-making flow in oncology for a cancer treatment might be very different to the decision-making flow in another area, in the cardio area, for example. So you need to also understand the complexities of who am I talking to? How can I reach them best? What's most interesting to them? What channel should I be using? So we're also talking about a marketing challenge here, right? So these two need to come together to achieve the ultimate goal of best possible information on the one hand side, and then obviously also best possible uptake of those patients who should be receiving a certain medicine for their uses. It's really, you have to look at it from both sides. Otherwise, we're falling short.
Right. And Florian, in your opinion, what are the risks of using traditional launch playbooks for today's highly targeted therapies?
I think the biggest risk here is that of becoming irrelevant. If you are sticking to, let's say, primary care playbook, where you're launching a drug and you're putting huge sales forces, field forces out there, and do not respect that complexity on the receiving side. So who are the stakeholders I need to be engaging with? Because we need to realize, Kaushik, that it's not only an HCP anymore, right? There is an HCP. There is a nurse involved in the whole process. And if we're talking hospitals and treatment centers, there is a whole system of decision-making within that. So that yesterday's playbook will not help you address that complexity. So we need to develop more fit-for-purpose playbooks for specialty medicines. And there is not only one specialty medicine. We need to look at it also area by area. I was mentioning oncology as an example, but then there's also more than 200 different cancer types known today, right? So, and it becomes more complex if you look into it, and we need to bring simplicity to complexity. That's very clear, but we also need to make sure that we do not disregard some of the complexities which are important for the go-to-market. And I think this is, as I was saying, the biggest risk is becoming irrelevant, because you might be trying to talk to somebody who is not interested in talking to you, or who's not the right person you should be talking to, or you're simply not there at the right time, or with the right content, or in the right channel, right? So this is where today's playbooks need to be much more targeted in that approach. Otherwise, you become irrelevant.
Very well said. And Florian, we've talked a lot about omnichannel in pharma, but let's be honest, what most companies are doing today is not truly connected. It's fragmented. The rep on the ground doesn't know what the MSL discussed. The email doesn't reflect the last face-to-face interaction. And that's a missed opportunity. And you've said the future of launch isn't about doing more. It's about being smarter with what we already have. So what does that actually look like on the ground for sales, for marketing, for medical?
Brilliant question, Kaushik. I think at a highest level, there's, I think, three elements to this, if I think about it, right? The first one is, you're mentioning it, the different functions who are working with a customer. You mentioned medical, the MSL, you mentioned the sales rep from a sales function. I would say the first element in what you're describing and how we can work smarter is to connect the different functions. That's essential and is important. Otherwise, we will not reach our ultimate goal of creating a great experience for our customers, for the healthcare professionals who are on the receiving end, right? So connected functions is really important. In order to do that, you need connected data, because data today provides so many insights that inform what you should be doing, who you should be talking to, when you should be talking to them, through which channel you should be talking to them. So connected data, it becomes very, very, very important. And I'm coming back to something we just discussed before. This needs to happen in a very efficient cycle, in a very quick manner, almost in real time. So if the MSL goes into an office today, right, he needs to be aware if anyone else from his organization has had a conversation yesterday or even this morning with the same HCP, what I have been talking about and how he can build on top of that, right? So the third important thing is technology needs to accelerate this, and AI is a really, really great technology to accelerate that and bring efficiency to this reinforcing loop. So I think it's these three things, connected functions, connected data, fueled by AI, that will help us work smarter and how we're launching products in the future, not only harder. So, there's a lot of things we can be doing collectively as an industry, but also from a technology perspective, from a Viva perspective, on how we can help there, right? So for example, we can bring AI agents to the table, which we're doing with Vault CRM. I know we're going to get there, but AI agents that help the individual MSL, the individual sales rep, and all of the other customer-facing functions to perform their tasks more efficiently, more productively, but also in a better way. That's one angle we're working on, and where we can help from a technology provider perspective, from a Viva perspective. But also, for example, making content that these folks engage customers with, HCPs with, more readily available. So we're bringing an agent into our content tool, PromoMats, called MLRbot, which does pre-quality checks, significantly reducing the time that content actually takes to go through MLR check and MLR review, and to make it available to the field forces, right? So there's many different angles and levers we can pull from a technology side to make that vision of launching smarter a reality.
Right. So if I understand it right, I think in the future versions, we are going to see a format where there's a single view of the HCP by all functions. So we are essentially breaking down the silos and allowing the reps and the MSLs and all the other functions to see one unified view of HCPs, and to be able to track all the interactions that we've had in the past, including different channels.
That's right. That's exactly right, Kaushik. And if I can give you an anecdote on this one, one of our customers gave us the example of how things should not happen, right? He said, so there was this doctor, and he had an MSL actually walk into his office and say to the doctor, let me tell you all about our new treatment, which we're bringing to market. And the doctor said, let me stop you right there. Let me tell you all about your new drug, because I was your principal investigator on that drug, the development. And I probably know best than anyone on this planet what this drug does, right? And this is just a funny example of what we're trying to avoid, actually, Kaushik, right? So we're trying to avoid creating a bad experience for the customers by not being informed what has happened. And I was using an example that connects actually medical to the clinical sphere, which we haven't discussed yet. But I think in the context of launches, that becomes even more important as well. How can these functions work together? How can they be aware of what has happened? And it sounds very simple. It sounds very obvious. It sounds intuitive. But from a technology perspective, it has never been done. Surprisingly as that might sound, it has never been done. And we at Viva, we've been at CRM, working on CRM in the life science industry for now 18 years. And finally, we are able, with Vault CRM, built on the Vault platform, to bring all of these functions together in a single architecture, on a single database, with a single view on the customer. So there's no marketing view, no medical view, no sales view. There's just one view of the customer, and everybody looks at the same thing and can have the same level of information instantaneously. And we think that's groundbreaking. It's never been done before. It's actually also not so easy to do. We've been at it for a while. But we're very happy to actually bring that to the market now because, as you said, for launching drugs now and in the future, being aware, being fully in the picture, being completely aligned across functions will become ever more important. So this is why we believe this is extremely helpful and will be very impactful for the industry as a whole.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible and groundbreaking. And one of the things I hear a lot from the industry is oftentimes it happens that someone from the headquarters is visiting a doctor and they suddenly find the MSL waiting in the office. So I think there's always a communication gap because there's no interface or instance for the headquarter team to be able to log their interactions. Is that something Viva is addressing?
It's another good anecdote and good example of what we do not want to happen, right? And there's good reasons for headquarter colleagues to visit doctors, and typically they visit more important doctors, right? They visit key opinion leaders out there in the field. So a medical director of a country or even the general manager of a pharma company might go out there. And those are typically not CRM users, right? They're not people who visit doctors daily, and they go out there to represent their company, but they still need to be in the loop, right? And we want to make sure that while they're not CRM users, they can still contribute and have that transparency. So we're building in ways of how senior executives or managers can have transparency on what's going on without actually being users of the CRM. And at the same time, being looped in alignment with our colleagues. For example, one thing we're doing, again, sounds very simple. We're integrating with a Microsoft platform, right? I would estimate 98% of the pharmaceutical industry are using Microsoft as their predominant collaboration platform and productivity stack. Now, by integrating with Microsoft, we are able to, for example, leverage Microsoft Teams, which most of our customers are using, most of the industry is using. And that becomes a place where they're already used to collaborating between management also and the field and many other customers. We want to take advantage of that, or where our customers are already at, where the users are already at, and leverage that as an additional value add. So that's just one example of how we want to make life for our customers easier by giving visibility to management levels on the one hand side, but at the same time leveraging existing collaboration tools such as Microsoft Suite to bring users together to create more value.
And now if we zoom into the HCP experience, what does it take to make every interaction feel like a continuation, not a repetition? And why is that still so hard to achieve in 2025?
So part of it is what we've just been discussing, right? It's this connectedness between the different functions, the working in silos, which traditionally has served companies very well. And it's a process of breaking that up. It doesn't happen from today to tomorrow. So I think that's one ingredient which needs to happen. Functions working more closely together, sales, marketing, medical, and working together on behalf of the customer and the customer experience, but also branching out into the clinical sphere, which was the example I was given, right? Market access, who also talk to customers repeatedly. So I think that's an important thing. Technology can help force this or help accelerate this in a way. And I was just describing how we're envisioning our Vault platform, Vault CRM, to do that. But that's just one element, right? Even if you are aware and transparency is there and you're looking at one single source of truth, you know what has happened in the past. Now, what do I need to do moving forward? And I think this is where content becomes very important. Now, Kaushik, if I kept telling you the same thing over and over and over again, at some point you would remember it, recall it, yeah, but you would also be very bored and you would probably say, hey, I'm not sure if I want to talk to Florian again. right? So this is also what happens today, right? In today's world, doctors are very much used to getting experiences that they like, also from their personal lives. So that is something they mirror also into their professional lives. So you want to make sure that you keep engaging your customers as a pharma company with interesting content. And that's a big, big challenge for the industry overall, not only to repeat, but also to renew the content that you're engaging with. So I think that's the second element that's really important. And I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised if I told you that the investment into content production in the pharmaceutical industry is around 20 billion annually, 20 billion USD annually, and is still growing, right? More and more content is being produced. And because pharma companies, the life science industry is realizing that that's what they need to do. They need to produce more content. You might be surprised, Kaushik, if I told you, and if I'm going a little bit into a tangent into content here, you might be surprised that more than 3/4 of that content that is being produced is either never or almost never used. So that already tells you that while a lot of content is produced to engage potentially with customers, it's not always relevant content. So the field who's engaging with customers, sales, medical, marketing, they're not using that content to a large degree. So that means a lot of that 20 billion investment that I was mentioning into content is actually not really going to be impactful. And working on content is a huge challenge for the life science industry. And again, there is ways on how we can help with that from a technology perspective. For example, what we're working on at Viva is still real-time content supply chain, where if content is being used in the field, this is instantaneously fed back into the content creation process, giving feedback to those who create the content to tell them, look, this is what's being used. This is the feedback from the doctors, and this is what we need more of. And then there's other things that we need less of, right? So hopefully with that, we can bring down the content waste, if you want, significantly. So I think siloed functions, bringing them together, the right content that you need, and that brings you to the right channel, which becomes also much, much more important now than ever. How do you want to engage with me? We're on a video call today. 10 years ago, we would not have been on a video call, right? We would have probably been face-to-face, or this might not ever have happened. But doctors are also expecting more and more digital savviness in terms of being able to talk to the pharma industry via video, but also via chat. You and I, I'm pretty sure we're both using various different chat platforms. And that's the same on behalf of the doctors who want to have, sometimes we call it in tech speak, the asynchronous communication, right? I text you something, you read it, you don't have to reply immediately. So I think the channel becomes very important, and things like video, things like chat play a very, very important role. And it's not only about chat and only about video. It's about being able to play the entire tunes across the keys, right? And of face-to-face interactions, of video interactions, of chat interactions, and bringing all of that together with the great content you're producing and making sure this is coordinated across functions. So Ready, see, Kaushik, I think this is not an easy feat. It's not an easy task. It's very complex in a way, but it's also feasible. And we see a lot of companies out there with great initiatives on how to bring the functions together and how to bring best content through the right channels to their customers. So we're making a lot of progress, but it's still a long way to go, I think.
Right. And at the pace at which technology is evolving, I'm sure we are very close to a future where the rep receives a system-generated script before the office visit that includes the intelligence from the previous conversations, the segmentation criteria, the specialty, and the label. So I think very soon, I'm sure we'll have such technologies in place.
The short answer is yes. I think the slightly longer answer is a bit more nuanced. We're already seeing fantastic progress on the technology side, right? And one of the most promising technologies in what you're describing is obviously artificial intelligence and large language models in particular, who have the ability to crunch enormous amounts of data and break them down into bite-sized pieces that are digestible for humans in a very short amount of times. That's what we're seeing already today. And that's kind of moving very, very quickly, I would say, right? And already today, there is great use cases out there. If I think about the commercialization of pharma products, for example, for pre-call planning on how to prepare. That was your example on how to prepare for an interaction with an HCP. What are the things I need to know? What has happened in the past? We're actually, from a Viva side, we're bringing an AI agent into Vault CRM, which you'd been asking about. And that's going to be launched in December, available to scale across the globe, right? So that's moving very, very quickly. One thing we must not forget is that on the receiving end, there's still a human being. So there is a human in the shape of a doctor who will be treating another human, the patient. And I think technology can support a lot in this approach of bringing as we were discussing, the right content, maybe through the right channel at the right point in time, in the right shape and form. So I think that's where technology excels. But then there is still a human connection and a human interaction to be made, and a level of trust to be built up between the individuals, but also between the doctor and the pharmaceutical company, for example. That will remain, right? And I think technology will make that easier, but it will also, in my interpretation, put more emphasis on that human connection, at least for the foreseeable future.
Absolutely. You're spot on there. And Florian, coming to a very hot topic. In 2024, Viva made a bold move, migrating its CRM off Salesforce and onto its own platform, Vault. And that wasn't just a technical change, it was a signal that the industry needs a CRM built for life sciences by life sciences specialists. Tell us more about the strategy behind moving Viva CRM to Vault platform, and what fundamental advantages does that unlock for the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're absolutely right. This was a big move, or is a big move for Viva as a whole. It was also very well deliberated and very strategic move. So we've been basing our CRM system on the Salesforce core technology ever since its inception a long time ago. I told you we've been working in the industry for 18 years, right? So, and at that time, it was the right decision to base it on the technology core Salesforce. And then Viva over time built a lot of technology around that, including a data model and including all the bells and whistles that our customers hopefully appreciate. So that was all Viva around it. Now, there came the time when we at Viva felt we've outgrown the platform and what it can do, right? The Salesforce platform is very good at treating transactional data. It's not so good at working with content. Life science industry, as we were discussing before, is an industry that is working heavily with content. And at some point in time, we had started to develop the Vault platform for other areas outside of CRM. Because of that, right? Think about the regulatory space. Think about the clinical space. Think about R&D more generally, right? A lot of data, but also a lot of content that needs to be handled in. When Viva stepped into these spaces, we very quickly realized it needs a technology platform that actually can support these use cases of the life science industry across data and content. Now, and with that in mind, we realized that CRM also lives off content, right? And it was a very deliberate move to say, we're moving CRM from the Salesforce core technology onto the Vault platform, which is purpose-built for life sciences and treats content and data as first-class citizens. So I think that was the first major motivation for us, because we saw more potential for the industry overall by moving to such a modern life science-specific platform such as the Vault platform. The second reason was that we were limited in the amount of innovation we can deliver to the industry. And I don't know if you knew that, but Viva is actually a public benefit corporation, was one of the first company to actually register as a public benefit corporation. And what that means is we're not only guided by what we do for our shareholders, so increase our share price, we're also guided by our mission for the industry overall, for the individuals that are in the receiving end, for the companies we serve, right? So, and the employees who work at Viva. So there is a multifunctional target for Viva and our board at Viva as a public benefit corporation. And I think one realization also was, in order to be more helpful for the industry overall, that move makes a lot of sense because we can innovate more. We can now move into areas such as marketing and campaign management, which we've done with our campaign manager, which we released last year. We can go into areas such as the service-centric functions of life sciences.
Right.
Think about inbound HCP call centers. Think about inside sales teams who do outbound work, right? We've done that already with our service center solution and application, again, which we released last year. We're moving into the patient space. We're releasing patient CRM actually now in August 2025. And we were not able to do that before for contractual reasons. So while Salesforce was a good partner for a long time and great technology, I think we had outgrown that. And I think for the industry, it was important that we made that decision so we can innovate much more strongly. And we have such a great innovation roadmap ahead of us that we couldn't have had before. So we're very, very excited about what's laying ahead of Viva. And Vault CRM is one important element of that brings this testament to that renewed innovation in the CRM space.
Right. That's amazing. And Florian, what are some of the biggest milestones you have seen so far since Vault CRM launched?
So it's 2025 is certainly the Vault CRM year for us. That's for sure. So some of the highlights, I would say, we now have almost 100 customers who are live on Vault CRM. Maybe people don't know that out there, but there's almost 100 companies, from large companies, large biopharmas to small biotechs around the world, who are live and happy working with Vault CRM as their only CRM system, right? The system is in use. It's being used by thousands of people every day, interacting with customers. And that's kind of a great feedback in itself, right? Our customers are happy with the next gen CRM system for life sciences, and they're using it. And we're learning every single day. We're getting great feedback from our customers on what else we could do, what additional innovation we can pack into. So I think that's a great milestone to have achieved this year. Maybe a second highlight to mention here is that out of the top 20 biopharmas, 6 have already decided to move to the Vault CRM platform and to the Vault CRM application. And we're very humbled and very proud of this, actually, that a lot of customers have already chosen to move with us, and for other companies are in the process of deciding right now, right? So there's a lot of conservations and deliberations going on in the other top 20 companies. And if I take a look at this, GSK is one of these companies that had decided very, very early to move to Vault CRM. And they're already live with thousands of users across some of their geographies. And they will be globally live with almost 20,000 users by October. So that's also showing that not only does the application work, does the software work, does it deliver on its next generation promise, but it also works at scale, and it can be implemented in a fast and easy and efficient way, right? For organizations such as GSK going live within basically a year with their entire organization. So we're very proud of that. Bayer just announced they've gone live with the Vault CRM in the US. So that's one of the other 6. One of the largest markets, obviously, in the US. So we're incredibly proud and humbled by what we see adoption by our customers and kind of success stories, feedback we're getting. So yeah, very, very happy with these milestones and looking forward. Obviously, there's still a lot of work ahead of us, but we're happily engaging in it, I would say.
Right. And although you did mention about the successful migration for a lot of the clients, what kind of feedback are you hearing from customers who have adopted Vault CRM, and what's standing out the most?
So as you're saying, right, there is from the hundreds, close to 100 customers that are live, there's some pretty positive feedback we're seeing on the migration, but also on net new implementations where, for example, smaller biotechs who are choosing CRM system for the first time, they choose Vault CRM, right? So a lot of positive feedback overall. I think if I have to package it, I would say Vault CRM is working brilliantly in a couple of different ways. First of all, it's working, it's live, it has all the capabilities that you need as a life science company. It's a very deep application, as we would say, right? So it gives you everything that you need to be compliant, to be working with your customers across the globe, across channels, across different content, etc. So I think it's working from that perspective. I think a second feedback we're getting is the cross-functional alignment is much, much easier. Now, sales, marketing, medical, they're all looking at the same underlying data. They're all looking at the same single source of truth. And that's making it much easier to actually align with your counterparts. And you're getting rid of all of these discussions. Should this be A? Should this be B? How do you segment? How do you segment? Right? So all of this, our customers tell us, is going away because they're using Vault CRM on a single platform. And so I think overall, if I would have to put it in one sentence, our customers are saying Vault CRM is not just a tech tool, a system of record. It's actually helping us to shape new ways of working and to address the challenges that we're up against in primary care, in secondary care, in specialty care, and in rare diseases as well. So we're very, very excited by the feedback from our customers.
That's a real game changer. I think breaking down the silos and providing the flexibility to see the single source of truth is is a big blessing.
I agree.
So, Florian, coming to the topic of AI, there's a lot of hype around AI, but for many field teams, the real dream isn't robot reps. It's less admin, more time with customers, and smarter insights that don't require a PhD to interpret. From your perspective, how important is the underlying software foundation for making AI truly valuable? And what's Viva doing to ensure its AI is solving real problems, not just adding noise?
So indeed, there is a lot of hype around AI, and I think justified hype, right? The technology of artificial intelligence promises great benefits. And we at Viva, we could not agree more. This is a fundamental technology shift that we're experiencing. I think some of my colleagues have likened it to the appearance of, desktop visual UX and the mouse as an operating input into the computer. AI is changing how we interact with technology and will change ever more how we interact with technology in the future. So we're in full agreement at Viva that AI is a foundational change and shift in the technology space, right? Now, AI today, we believe, can only be as powerful as the system that it's built on and the data that it uses. Because if you just sprinkle AI on an existing setup that is not deep enough by its capabilities, you will not just by definition get a better process out, right? You will not be more successful from that. Likewise, if you bring non-well structured, non-well insightful, non-well connected data to an AI model, it will also have very big difficulties to bring anything meaningful from that. This is why if you want to really leverage the power that AI promises to bring, you need to have a strong underlying system, so a deep application that gives you many capabilities that the AI can operate on. And at the other same time, you need data to feed that very hungry for data AI LLM that's underlying it in many cases, right? So you need a system, a deep system, and you need data to fuel the AI. And this is also the approach we're taking at Viva. We want to bring high value AI to our customers. It should be easy to use. It should be practical. It should be impactful from the moment you switch it on. You should not need to configure it, train it, learn for many months before it is actually impactful. This is why we're at Viva putting in the hard work to build AI into our products. So if you're a user of our product, of our CRM product, and you switch on our AI agents, you get instantaneous value back, and the users who use it know how to use it because it's built into the system. They already know the system. It's helping them from day one. So this is our approach, building on top of a deep application or deep applications across our portfolio and feeding it with the right data and a lot of the right data, and then building it into our products in a way that it can add value instantaneously. So I think that's the way we're approaching this and the way we're also bringing our AI products to market.
Right. That's fascinating. And are you able to share any practical examples of the AI capabilities for our audience?
Absolutely. Let me actually give you two examples. The first one is Viva AI. Viva AI, we announced a few months ago, half a year ago, and Viva AI is a major initiative for Viva. It's an own organization within Viva with its own people, huge budget. And what the intent of Viva AI is to bring AI applications into our Vault platform. And I had mentioned before that I think the Vault platform is powering all of our software. All of our software, there's 50 plus applications that we're offering today. All of them are running on the Vault platform. And CRM is only the last one to come home, basically, onto the platform, right? So 50 plus applications on the Vault platform, and Viva AI intends to bring AI capabilities at the platform level. So the entire portfolio can use these AI capabilities, and then bringing dedicated AI tools into each application. So that's Viva AI in simple terms. And some of the examples of what we're doing and where we're starting is actually in the commercial space, Kaushik, where we're introducing an AI agent into the CRM system called CRM Bot. It's going to be an assistant that supports the field teams or the CRM users at large, not only the field teams, to do all the great use cases we were mentioning before. Pre-call planning, right? Very important one. And post-call debriefing and diving deep into insights you're having from different conversations you're having with the industry. So CRM Bot is a really good example of that practical high-value AI It's right there. It's omnipresent throughout the CRM. It's very easy. It will suggest actions you can actually take because it knows where you are, who you're looking at in the system, what you want to do. So it will be very context aware and allow you to work very, very seamlessly and increase your productivity and your efficiency. So that's one example. Another example that we're very, very excited about is voice control. Now, you and I would judge probably most other people have been trained to enter text into systems, into computers, into smartphones for decades now, right? So we're all very, very used to entering using keyboards in one shape or the other to interact with technology. Now, voice control attempts to change that for the users of CRM system from Viva. We want to move to the voice paradigm, enabling CRM users to use natural language, such as you and I are talking now, to interact with the software, right? To record interactions with doctors and document them, but also to operate and ask the system to do certain actions for them without the need to enter text in any shape or form. So that, we believe, will be a significant change and a significant step forward also, because it's much easier to operate in natural language than it is obviously by entering text, right? That will also provide for much richer insights if you think about it. Because if you had to document our conversation here now by entering text somewhere, naturally you would take shortcuts, right? You would reduce it to maybe some of the essence. If you have the ability to go to natural language, the nuances you can capture from, for example, conversations with doctors are much, much higher, much, much richer. And that will make for richer insights also that you can then leverage for producing better content and having more engaging interactions in the future. So I think voice control, we're extremely, extremely excited about. And hand in hand with that, because we are in the life science industry, needs to go compliant free text. So that's kind of the third innovation we're bringing in December. Compliant free text does a compliance check on basically the text you're entering or the voice recordings you're doing, right? Because for good reasons, we are in the industry. There is a lot of regulations and compliance rules, and we want to make sure that everything that happens in the system is compliant and is guiding the user basically with that. So compliant free text is kind of the logical addition to the voice control feature. So super excited about these three innovations. There's many more coming, but CRM bot, voice control, and compliant free texts are exciting for us and hopefully also for our customers.
That's brilliant. And I know of many pharma clients or pharma companies who do not allow entering unstructured text because of compliance reasons. So from there to voice-based logging is a real transformation.
Yes, it is. And I'm coming back to something I said earlier, right? The pharma industry is typically not an industry that is at the forefront of adopting new technologies. And also this will be a process, right? It will not happen from today to tomorrow, but we're already having really good conversations with customers and their compliance teams around voice control. And yes, some things will have to change, but I think it's kind of a process a change process that companies and users will have to go through, and compliance teams, right? To find the right balance between ease of operating the systems and getting the benefits of using natural language, the richer insights, and on making sure you are compliant at the same time. So that's going to be exciting to see how this pans out in the next few years.
Right. And going back to your first example, are you suggesting that Viva is going to have its own inbuilt next best action engine?
So what we're bringing, to be very specific, in December is CRM bot, which is that CRM assistant, if you want, right? A Gen AI-based AI agent that supports the users of the CRM system wherever they are in the system. It doesn't matter what they're doing, if they're organizing an event, if they're recording a call or an interaction, or if they're planning one, right? So it will be omnipresent in the CRM system. That's what we're launching in December with a set of use cases that I was just describing, along with voice control, compliant free text, and MLR bot, which I was mentioning earlier for our PromoMat solution, which is focused on MLR pre-quality checks, right, of content. So that's what we're bringing to market now, right? Next best action, there's various different degrees of what you could be looking at, right? So what LLM models are very good at is crunching historical data or understanding historical data and kind of answering on part of that historical data. And what LLM models are typically not as good as is to understand what would make sense in a certain given situation, right? This is where our customers, many of the pharmaceutical companies already today are employing other advanced analytical approaches. So for example, machine learning approaches, which actually are much better suited to that type of task and that type of question. So if we're talking about a next best action engine, what we're bringing to market in December with our Gen AI assistant, it's not a next best action engine in its core sense, right? Because there is better solutions out there, and LLMs are not the right tools, and we believe, for that at the moment. But what we're doing is we're obviously integrating with these next best action engines, should it be machine learning based or rule based or whatever it is, right? To make sure that our AI assistants can actually leverage those insights and take those data and insights and compile it together with all the other data that the AI agent has access to. Because that's the real superpower of AI agents today, to understand and bring together a lot of the different data and bring a concise answer to it. And so we see next best action engines as an input to AI tools to round out the picture, if you want, as one data source among many different data sources. And there's great solutions out there, machine learning based or otherwise, that can do that today.
Right. And Florian, I would like to spend a couple of minutes on learning more around Campaign Manager and Service Center. And if you're serious about customer centricity, you need more than a CRM. You need tools that help people think, plan, and act with precision and empathy. And your offerings, Campaign Manager and Service Center, seem to be addressing that head on. So how do these innovations reflect Veeva's broader vision for more customer-centric pharma model?
I was talking a little bit before about why we took the decision to move to the Vault platform. And Service Center and Campaign Manager are actually two very good examples of what we can do now that we're on our own technology stack. So first of all, we need to recognize that we weren't able to launch something like Campaign Manager or Service Center before, right? I was mentioning that for contractual reasons, we simply weren't allowed to step into these spaces. We are now able to. And not only did we announce that we'd be stepping into these spaces, we actually already created a product and launched it, both of them, Service Center and Campaign Manager, in 2024. So from announcing we'd go there and to actually delivering a solution was done in a very, very short time, which hopefully speaks to the innovation speed that we're tackling with Viva today. Now, you're absolutely right by saying that these two reflect our broader vision of where we want to go and what we want to do for our customers. And that broader vision, and it's very public, we speak about it many, many times also at our events, is to build the industry cloud for life sciences. That's our North Star, and it has been for more than 10 years, right? So that vision had been set forth by Peter Gassner and the management team quite a while ago. And it's still valid for us as it was back then, because we do recognize that we're still on a journey. We're not there yet. We're creating and we're learning and we're getting feedback from the industry every single day, every month, every year. And Campaign Manager and Service Center are part of that broader vision of the industry cloud for life sciences. How so? We believe that in order to be able to provide these great customer experiences on the commercial end that we've been talking about, Kaushik, you need to have that connectivity between the different functions. And Campaign Manager, if I pick that out as an example, promises to provide that connectivity between marketing and sales. So it's an integral part. In the past, there have been tools for sales, such as CRM, and there have been tools for marketing, such as a marketing automation solution. But they were working in isolation. Marketing was not talking to sales about who should I be targeting predominantly. And sales was sometimes annoyed because mass emails went out to customers where you think that they shouldn't have gone out, right? So there was a marketing segmentation, there was a sales segmentation. They were working in isolation. And we want to solve that. And Campaign Manager is an integral element to that. Campaign Manager is a modern campaign management tool that allows marketing to use sales as a channel, if you want. So not only are you looking at the same universe of customers, of doctors, of HCPs, because it's all integrated on the Vault CRM platform, and you also have the ability as a marketeer to design campaigns that integrate the sales team into the campaign directly without having to do anything complex. So you could, for example, launch a campaign, and instead of firing mass emails out to the doctors, you can actually ask the sales team to send some of these messages on your behalf, because it's a more intimate, more personal communication. You can also ask them, for example, if you do not have consent, because now you're working on the same consent level. You know if a doctor has opted in or out, and you can ask the sales team to collect consent before he can be part of any campaign, right? So that connectivity was not there before, and it could be either be done through a very, very complex workaround, but in most cases, I would assume it had not been done. So they were working in isolation, and Campaign Manager aims to fix that. It aims to connect the two functions of sales and marketing together. And we're super excited because it's also a very easy to use solution versus some other things that are out there, which are more complex to operate. You need very dedicated, very technical teams can operate that on your behalf. And we don't think that's the right way. We think everybody should be able to very, very simply launch a campaign. And that makes it more accessible also for smaller countries and geographies, if you think about it, right? So super excited about Campaign Manager. If I can just share a few more sentences about Service Center. And similar to what Campaign Manager is for sales and marketing, Service Center aims to do for sales and the more service-centric functions. So we want to touch every function that works with the customer. And those are not only field teams that are out there, but it's also service teams who sit traditionally in call centers, for example, and doctors call them with a question or a service request or a sample request. Or you might have inside sales teams, right, who sit in a call center, but are on the telephone reaching out to customers and doctors from a central hub. So we want to integrate those two, because in the past, they had to work in parallel systems. They had to work in a call center software. They had to work in a CRM. Sometimes they had an Excel file open, right? So it was all very complex. We want to make sure that these things come together and that they are able, through that connectivity, to provide a great customer experience. And Campaign Manager and Service Center are two very, very integral parts to our vision here.
I think that's a fantastic innovation and a real game changer. And Florian, from your perspective, what's the biggest mindset shift pharma leaders will need to make by 2030 to stay competitive and stay connected?
I think the biggest mindset shift is moving away from control to coordination, right? So from a tightly managed linear process to a more agile, connected way of working, because we were saying before, right? A lot of new launches coming to market, a lot of pressure to make them successful without the resources increasing in similar size. So I think you, as a leader, you need to be more agile in your decision-making and reallocate priorities, not on the go, but more quickly. So I think that's the biggest mindset shift that I see. The industry generally has been focused a lot on minimizing risk in the past, right? And that's one of the contributing factors to what I said before of the industry not adopting technology at the speed of other industries. I think, and we mentioned COVID before, but I think that approach will not be successful any longer in the future. I think that more forward-looking, more innovation-close mindset and agile ways of working will become more important. So I think the most competitive companies, they will build out these capabilities in a repeatable, data-driven way, so they can excel on launches, they can excel on their everyday execution of their in-market products, and they will continuously learn and adapt in that process. Companies who are stuck to their ways and don't want to learn, I think they will be less successful in the future.
Right. And my last question before we conclude our today's conversation, if you could redesign the way a pharma company thinks about launches today, what's the first thing you would throw out and the first thing you would build in?
Now you're asking that as a hypothetical question. Yeah. I have to tell you, Varsik, that we're in the privileged situation of actually working with companies who are building their go-to-market greenfield, right? So I maybe can draw a little bit from their experiences and their success stories. I think the first thing to throw out is the mindset that a launch is a one-off, is a one-time thing. Launching once is great, but if you then do not follow through in launching successfully at scale, you're not going to be successful. So I think it's that what you have to throw out first is think about launches not as a one-off, but as a repeatable activity that you need to be able to repeat at excellence levels throughout. So that's the first thing I would throw out. And likewise, the first thing I would bring in, and we see that in our early customers, smaller biotechs who are going to market for the first time, and to build your organization and your go-to-market on a sound foundation, on a sound technology foundation, on a sound data foundation, but also on a sound process foundation. It's the first thing I would take in. In the past, obviously, because of legacy, this was not possible for many. But that's the first thing I would look at if I had the luxury to be able to do it from scratch: sound, tech, data, and processes.
Right. Wow. That brings us to the end of our today's conversation, Florian. Thank you so much for joining me on Drug Diaries today. This has been one of those conversations that doesn't just highlight where the industry is heading, but really helped us understand why we need to change and how we can get there. From the pressures of 2030 launch landscape to the evolution of CRM as more than a system, but a strategic enabler, and the role of AI in running us to more human, meaningful engagement. Your insights have been incredibly valuable, practical, and thought-provoking. And I know our audience will walk away with a lot of reflection on, and hopefully a few things to take action on too. Thank you so much for joining me today, Florian.
Thank you for having me, Kaushik. It was a pleasure to be here.